We are very pleased to welcome Stephanie Russell, who is a Global Health Research Portfolio Delivery Manager at Department of Health and Social Care. We also have Dr. Sarah Paddicombe, who is Assistant Director. We have Tess Green, who is a Senior Research Manager. And you also have myself, Natalia Edwards. Natalia Edwards, I'm Senior Finance Manager. During this webinar, we will cover. So I'll go through some of important bits through finance and budget guidance. We will also cover some sections of your online submission. And I have to say that we have a new system now. So I will share some screenshots, which hopefully will guide you through your submission. And then at the end of the session, there will be a Q&A session, and we all will be answering your questions. So moving on to finance and budget guidance. Can I please ask everyone who will be involved in a budget submission that you familiarize yourself with guidance notes, because they do contain a lot of very important information and very useful. So things may have changed from your previous submission, so I would advise not to revert to the old copies of the documents. So the budget that is available for this call is 4 million for each application, up to 4 million for each application for duration of up to 4 years. So that 4 million is the maximum amount an HR will pay for each application, and it may have a combination of costs that are paid at 100%, and some costs probably will be paid at 80% FEC, those for UK health education institutions. The amount requested and the length of time should be fully justified according to the nature of the proposed research. All costs requested must have a clear justification representing official development assistance or ODA eligibility. They must be directly relevant to achieving the objectives of improving the health needs and welfare for most vulnerable people from low and middle income countries. And they must represent good value for money in terms of 4 E's, which are economy, efficiency, effectiveness, and equity. So the amount of funds that we will fund will depend on location and the nature of your organization. So if, as you already probably know, these applications to this call can be submitted either by LMIC applicant or by UK applicant. And this is the first time that we are doing submission directly from low and middle income countries. So if an organization is based in low and middle income countries, we will pay 100% of all costs. So that's 100% of direct cost and 100% of indirect cost. And the indirect costs have to be calculated on a staff effort involved in the project. For UK-based organizations, there are slightly different rules. So if it's a university, we will pay 80% of full economic costing, and that's 80% of all direct costs and 80% of all indirect costs. For other type of organizations based in UK, such as charities, we will pay 100% of direct and indirect costs, with exception of NHS organizations, where we only fund direct costs. An organization, if they're based in other high-income countries, we will pay direct costs only, and there needs to be a full justification as to why the expertise is not available in low and middle-income countries. So moving on to staff cost, as you all know, staff cost will be the major part of your budget. And the costings can be quite complex. So all the salaries that you are requesting must be based on a current prices. So there shouldn't be any inflation built in when you submit your costings. But what you can include is any agreed increments, as well as any on costs that the employer is paying, such as pension, national insurance. There also might be geographical weighting. We do appreciate that NHR projects are very resource intensive with regards to financial and project management. And as such, you may include resources required to support monitoring, reporting, program management, financial management, and assurance as part of your application. And this cost can be requested at all sites. Another little difference is that student stipend cost should be included as a staff cost, whereas the student fees should be included as part of training and development budget category. And that brings us to training and development cost. So we will fund cost for all formal training posts, and which this can include masters, PhD, postdocs, anything like that. You also can request costs for other training activities such as coaching, monitoring. So studentship cost. Amount of studentship we fund will again depend on where the student is based and registered. If they are registered to attend a LMIC institution, NHR will fund full studentship cost of student fees and stipends. If they are registered to attend a high-income country institution, NHR will fund stipend and fees. It is expected that student fees will be reduced to the level paid by the national students, and evidence of it must be provided if asked. Students from high-income countries are not eligible for funding regardless of the program and location of study. So stipends. Stipends can be claimed from for students from ODA eligible countries, and is eligible for all academic training posts where support or salary is not received from other sources. And that sometimes can even be for masters. I do know that some funders only will fund the stipends for PhD students, but we are slightly different in that respect. Courses are expected to be for a minimum duration of 12 months, unless there is a clear justification for providing stipend for shorter durations. And stipends are expected to cover living costs such as accommodation, subsistence, and routine travel. Additional costs such as conference attendance or international travel, as well as research expenses, can be included in addition to the stipend. And so if the course is undertaken in ODA eligible country, then stipend should be in accordance with host institution policy, and you have to submit a copy to NHR if we ask for it. For distant or remote learning courses at UKHI, the pro rata of full stipend for the duration of UK residential period can be included as part of your costing. And for distant or remote learning courses at non-UK high-income institutions, the stipend would be as per host institution policy and pro rata for duration of residential period. And at the bottom of the slide, you can see the UK NHR minimum annual stipends that we recommend. And these amounts are also included in the guidance notes. So a little bit about equipment, as there are quite often we asked a lot of questions about it. So if you are purchasing equipment, it cannot be used for commercial purpose. It must be sustainable after the project end date. And it has to be used for ODA eligible activities only during and after the project has ended. You will be required to list all equipment items you are planning to buy. You should list items valued £250 or more separately, but you can group the same items together. So, for example, if you're buying 50 blood pressure monitors, you can include them in one line, but just specify in the description how many of those you are buying. There is a new limit for computers and laptops that we fund, and it is £1,000, including associated software and VAT. But we will not fund UK laptops or computers. We expect for this to be funded from indirect cost envelope. If you are buying expensive items of equipment, we may ask you for some quotes. Also, it's important to note that as a general rule, we do not fund equipment for use in the UK unless you can provide a clear justification as to how the equipment that you're buying will benefit LMIC communities. You will be required to keep asset register and report on it on an annual basis. The other bit to note is that normally, as a general rule, all equipment purchases have to happen in an early part of the project and preferably not in the last year. Other few bits to note about the research costs. So as with staff costs, all costs must be requested at the current prices. There shouldn't be any inflation incorporated in any of your figures. All costs must be in British pounds, and you have to provide exchange rates used as part of your online submission. You have to provide a comprehensive breakdown of all costs. So if we see as part of your submission that there are some very high level detail, for example, travel, £10,000 without any further breakdown, we will ask for those breakdowns to be provided, which may result in a delay in contracting and project starting. We also do not fund contingency. So if we see there is a contingency included, for example, in exchange rates, we will ask for that to be removed. The other bits to mention is justification cost section is really, really important. Quite often we see justification of cost section including a list of costs that we already see as part of your application. It doesn't really give us anything. So we would ask for full justification as part of our review. So it is my recommendation that you use the space provided to provide as much information as possible in relation to your cost of how they benefit delivery of your project objectives. So moving on to our new system, and it's called Realms, and it's a very new system, so please bear with us. We may experience some technical difficulties. Some of the fields may change, but yes, as you know, with all the new system, always some teething problems. And as such, I do encourage you start your application early. Don't leave it till the last minute. So this is how your login in screen will look like. And Realm system, it stands for Research Awards Lifecycle Management System. If you do have any technical difficulties, you can submit a support ticket through online portal. So there is a button for support. And all the user guides are also provided on the system. So now I will show a few screenshots from the system so you know what to look for. You also know which buttons to press. Before you start your application, you will need to receive an invitation from normally an applicant who needs to add you as another person in a project and give you viewing and editing rights. So after they've done that, the system will send you an email with instructions of what to do next and how to accept the invitation. And after it's been done, you will be able to view and edit the budget and other details of application form. Currently, we have an Excel version of the budget spreadsheet available on our website. Please note that this should only be used as a guide. It will not be accepted as a submission. It's purely for reason of collating information from your partners. That if you wanted to do it kind of not through online system, that it's there for you to use, but we will not accept it as a submission. And as always, remember to save on regular basis. What you enter, it should be saved as you go along through the system, but it's always a good habit to have to save on a regular basis. So when you access the system of the budget that you've been you have access to, there are some call documents that you access, and those are all documents that are relevant for this particular funding call. They're always there, so they're just at the moment there are 4. You may want to look at them all. Some of them are user guides of how to use the system, where other ones call guidance notes and finance call guidance notes applicable to this call. Before you do anything, you will need to list all the organizations that will be in receipt of funding. There are lots of organizations that's already on a system, but there might be some that's new that you will need to request to be added. And you basically start in the add organization field. You need to start typing the name, and if they're there, they will pop up. If they're not, you will need to send a request for them to be added. And if organization is there, you select from drop-down box applicant organization. At the moment, there is only one option, and then you press submit. So once you press the submit, the organization will be populated in the lower part of the screen, where you now can see all the organizations there. And what it means that as you go through the budget, you can assign the cost through to a particular organization by selecting the drop-down box. On this the same screen, but just kind of on a lower part, you also can view the budget summaries. And those are auto-populated as you enter more and more costs in your budget. There's also a justification cost section that I mentioned earlier. So to enter the budget, you will need to press view or edit button. And as soon as you've done that, you will be presented with a new pop-up screen. And at the top of the screen, you see there are different tabs that you can click on. There's budget summaries, when there is years as well, and years, it's those fields are populated on the basis of information entered earlier in application process. There are also contributions and currencies tabs. So currencies tab is where you enter your exchange rates. To expand the sections, you simply need to press on a plus button, and then all your salary sections and, for example, training cost will be expanded. You also can switch between different years depending which year cost you are entering. So this is a post and salaries details section. Lead and co-applicants' names will be auto-populated once they have accepted their invitation. So when you expand that section, their name already will be there, but you still need to provide all their salary details. And once the salary details are entered, so once you had entered basic pay, percentage FTE, and number of months in a particular year, the cost will be auto-calculated. You still can amend that cost, but if it's too high, you will be presented with an error message. And that's just to prevent you from incorporating any inflationary increases. There is also one quite a useful function that you can copy staff details from the previous years. So once you've done your year 1, you go to year 2, and there is copy research staff and salaries from previous years, which automatically populates all the name and things. All other costs, so they are very similar manner as a staff cost, although not as much details as required. And I do encourage description field is used to provide the breakdowns as are shown here. So how many, for example, how many people are going to a destination, and what is the flight cost for each person. And you will need to assign each line to a particular organization. So at the moment, there is more options available than just organizations. There are some other options. Please don't use those. I have requested our technical team to disable those, but they're still there. Contributions tab, as I mentioned earlier. So this tab is for you to show if there is any costs that will be involved in a project, but you are not claiming for. So there can be reduced PhD fees, or, for example, pro bono salaries. So anything that you're not claiming for should be included within this section. And it's quite simple to use. You basically press on a plus button to add contributions from other organizations. And if you want to delete something, there is a little cross. So currencies tab. So this is, again, this we ask you to list all the exchange rates for all the institutions involved. So all cost, as I mentioned earlier, must be in a British pounds, but all institutions will need to obviously do their costings first on a local currency, and then convert them into British pounds using the exchange rates that will have to be provided on this screen. After your application gone through funding committee and hopefully funded, we will scrutinize the budget. So we will look through your budget on a line-by-line basis, and if there is anything there that we expect does not meet our criteria, we will ask for it to be possibly removed or justified, or further breakdown provided. So that's why it's quite important to use that justification of cost section, and also provide the proper breakdowns of costs. After all costs have been agreed, your payments will be made on a quarterly basis, and they will be paid to the contracting organization, which then will be required to make payments to all other organizations involved in the project. You'll be asked to submit quarterly financial statements to us, which detail the actual expenditure and also the forecast expenditure, and your payment schedules will be recalculated on a regular basis in accordance with information received in those financial reports. Important dates reminder. So hopefully you would have all submitted to intend to submit yesterday, and now is mandatory deadline. If you haven't, I'm afraid that's too late now. But yeah, we do have quite a large number of applications. And the full application deadline is 4th of August 2021. So that gives just under 4 weeks to complete your full budget. Funding committee will take place at the beginning of December with a view of contract start dates as the 1st of May.